Welcome to the place where we learn about and learn from the leaders in our field who are powering creativity. I'm Aaron Dworkin, and this is Arts Engines. Thanks again for joining me here on Arts Engines. Today's guest is John Clapp, who serves as the Chief Orchestra and Production Officer of the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra. John, welcome to the show.
Very great to be here. Looking forward to the conversation. Thanks for having me, Aaron.
Well, I am so excited to talk with you. Obviously, Cincinnati Symphony, an amazing institution and organization, has partnered with Sphinx in the past for many years, and obviously one of our great creative partners. I've had the opportunity to just see the orchestra and the institution up front, and it really is truly remarkable. And so there's a number of things I wanted to talk about, but I thought it might be great just to start off, if you could just kind of give us that 30,000 foot view of the CSO.
Sure. One of the first questions we always get asked is it CSO actually two different orchestras? Because people know us as the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra, but they also know us as the Cincinnati Pops Orchestra. But we are one Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra with two iconic brands led by two amazing leaders. Christian Macellaro is our new music director. He is brilliant. And of course, the legendary John Morris Russell, who curates all of our Pops programming. We do a lot of work here, obviously, in Music Hall, bringing the best of symphonic music here for our audiences, but we do a lot out in the community. We really dig in and dive in into our learning and community engagement programs, including a series of concerts in the summer called the Brady Block Parties, which actually take the orchestra, the full orchestra, to different parks around the city where we actually build a stage from the ground up, and people have never seen us before. They see the giant truck pull up and it says the CSO and the Pops, and they are floored, and they have a great time because it's also a party and a chance to get to hear the orchestra for the first time. So we're very proud, and I always say to people who don't know us, Cincinnati is the place to be when you want to come for great art.
That's absolutely awesome. And obviously, the role of the orchestra in the community is so significant. And so I did also just want to ask about your title, because a lot of times people hear a title and they're like, okay, wait, so what does this person actually do? Like, what falls in their purview? So I figured we should just ask. We have so many people who are in administrative roles in the arts who watch the show, Chief Orchestra and Production Officer.
Right. So, when you think about the orchestra part of that, I really am there to support our musicians. So the personnel department is a big part of what takes care of our musicians. And of course, the library also, right? So most of those departments that people would know in an orchestra, I oversee those departments. I have a big role in, how the orchestra is scheduled, what their work schedule looks like, how we get all this activity in, where we're going, how long it takes to play and set up. So that's more of the operations or production side of what we do. But I also oversee the learning department. And that has been great. That is a newer part of my role in the last year. And even as a musician, I did a lot of performing in education ensembles in schools. I'm a bassoonist by nature, and always had a real passion for that. And I love seeing the youth orchestra and our Nouveau program, which actually brings chamber music for people who have barriers or access to learning music, actually gets them a place to play and to collaborate and to learn. And it's been great overseeing all of those areas, and they tie together very nicely.
Awesome. That's absolutely incredible. And obviously, kind of a wonderful role to really have this perspective of so much of what is happening in and around the orchestra. So, kind of switching gears a little bit, obviously, a lot of people today talk about the what are they doing as an institution surrounding DEI. And kind of do we assemble things like task forces and those types of things? Do we do different things? How are we thinking about it? It's had to change for some, or some people feel different pressures to change their focus on it. So just curious if you could share with us kind of how is the CSO approaching that, and talk a little about obviously your own task force.
Yeah, I mean, We are absolutely committed to diversity, equity, inclusion here at the orchestra. Our Chief Inclusion Officer, Hal Brown, says it best, where he said, "The words may change, but the work remains the same." So in our minds, we push forward, we continue to do what we do. But obviously, we may have to change some wording that's on a website or how we talk to people who want to know more about our programs. But in essence, we have not changed our commitment to that. And one of the strongest things, and you mentioned about a DEI task force, it is in our CBA. It is embedded in what we do. So it is not just an outside committee. It is a commitment from both sides of the table to work on these issues, particularly with representation on the stage is a big part of why this task force exists and moving those initiatives forward. So having a DE&I task force is really amazing. It has musician and staff representation. So the musicians bring four members to the table. And then in staff, we bring personnel, HR, inclusion, and my title as well. All those directors or VPs are at the table. And it is fantastic. We meet 6 times a year. We have a real working committee. We decide on areas of focus at the beginning, and then we actually have a work plan, and people in the committee are assigned tasks and research, and so that we can then bring all of these ideas, and the information and work collaboratively with our players committee and with our local to move things forward. And the CBA empowers us to do that. And that is a fantastic thing to have. I highly recommend it. Its inception was in September of 2021. So we're about 5 years in, a little before my time. But the real work came after our signing of the 24 through 29 CBA. So just 2 years ago, where we really started dialing in. And I think you've seen some of our work in terms of tenure and audition practices. We're really getting that out there and trying to, with the League of American Orchestras in particularly, we're really collaborating in the Inclusive Stages program to share this information. It should not just be kept with us. It needs for everyone to look and say, how can we work together? What can we improve? How can we change? Because as we know, change is hard. And especially for something like orchestras, which have just been around for so long, nobody's really thought of, oh, wow, how could this affect it? And I will say, Aaron, what's great about all this is it's really good for everyone. It's not just targeted to one area or one demographic or one gender. Everything we do in this task force and all this change is good for everyone in our industry. And that framing is critical so that your musicians, your board, they also have to know and engage in this work. They have to understand this is good for everyone. And another quote that our inclusion officer, Harold, always says is, diversity is good for business. It really is. You need diverse perspectives in everything that you do. So you really want to make sure that your organization has those perspectives. The creativity is better, the productivity is better. So we're really, really still committed to that here. And I think it shows in everything that we do. And we're very, very, very proud of it.
And it's really one of the things that really stands out to me that you were sharing is how embedded it is. So in the CBA, it seems like it's really now in the DNA of the institution. And of course, I know when I've been there and seeing some of the community things that have occurred in the community in Cincinnati and the orchestra really involved in that. And that it really does seem like it's part of the DNA of the institution itself.
It is. And every day I get to walk into work and I look up and there's a little balcony area in our offices and it says, to be the most relevant orchestra in America. If you're going to put that on your wall, I sure as heck hope that you're committed to it.
Right.
And everyone feels that way.
Absolutely. And so, with what the task force has been able to work on, are there any? I'm sure there are people in our audience right now who are, and might be at different orchestras or other arts organizations, and they're like, okay, so is there any kind of one of the initiatives or policies or things that you have implemented that you feel, wow, this is one that really has stood out or where we've seen this impact, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I would say the most important impact has been tenure evaluation. So for mostly everyone in this program probably understands there's a tenure process, much like there is in academia. Before you get the job full time forever, you need to go through a tenure process. And we know in orchestras, this is a very murky area. There's quite a bit of inequity in evaluation practices, in some cases, really nothing at all more than someone's opinion. And I think the biggest thing we did, we took to heart when there was recommendations from the Black Orchestral Network and Sphinx organization talking about actual relevant job-related criteria to evaluate someone's performance, which orchestras really just not have a lot of. And we actually built an entire system that starts with tenure criteria evaluations where you actually, everyone gets the same types of questions. There's collective feedback. That criteria actually leads backwards to creating a job description, something that I is very rare in orchestras, if you can believe that. We have a very highly skilled profession, yet we have nothing that sets what the expectations are. And moving backwards, when you join the orchestra, that's so great. You won the audition that is so hard to do. You actually receive a support document. So that's basically a new musician support document, which actually is derived from that criteria. So it all links together so that you have the best experience to integrate in the orchestra. And when you say, Aaron, about how you get an impression that we're involved at all levels, we're immersed in it. I will say all the way up to the music director, because our music director, Christy, actually coined the phrase when he talks about tenure, he actually says, I doesn't see it as tenure, he sees it as the period of integration. And all of our processes are built around that. So what I really try to share with anyone that wants to see and wants to work on this is how we worked on this evaluation system, which was very much staff and musician driven. We worked together on this, was not done in isolation, and the buy-in was tremendous. And I really applaud our players for getting on board with these improvements because it really has changed everything.
That is absolutely awesome. And I think definitely can hold up as an example for many orchestras or just other institutions as well. And again, just resonating that it's everyone, it's not one person in an institution saying, okay, here's what everyone needs to do. It's everyone coming together and saying, we jointly all seek this evolution of how we approach things. Absolutely fantastic work. Obviously, I am sure just brings so much joy and is fulfilling for you in terms of this work. We're just about out of time, but I always like to ask of all of my guests, this work is, as you can see, so fulfilling. The impact you're having, the integration with the community in Cincinnati, but there also must be some tough days. And so just wondering, as an arts leader, do you have any mechanisms or approaches that you use to get through when it's the toughest of times?
Yeah, and there certainly are. I mean, as much as we can do this work, there are always people that still need to be served or need to be included in some way. We can do great work to try to increase representation on the stage, but someone may come to a concert for the first time and say, I don't see enough people who look like me. Maybe people who say, well, you talk about access, but what about this group here that can't come to music hall? What are you doing for them? And honestly, I look back on the programs during those tough times and say, you know what? What have we done? How far have we come? And try to build upon it and say, okay, this is all good feedback. This is actually, it seems negative. It could easily get you down, but let's turn it positive and say, and every time someone gives feedback, there's always a point that you can turn on and look for improvement, something positive, and bring it back to your group. I think one of the pieces of advice is don't take it so much on yourself. It's not a one person thing. You have colleagues who will help you with this. And that's a really great thing in Cincinnati. I feel like I have great colleagues that will talk through this stuff and they're so energized about doing something about it that, yes, those down days really can turn around quickly once we actually work with our colleagues and come to some new ideas. So.
God, Clapp, you truly are one of the arts engines who is powering human creativity in our world. Thank you so much for everything that you do, and thank you for being on the show.
My pleasure. Great to see you.